Right. Hello, everyone. We're going over the next topic, which is how to name and write formulas for covalent compounds. Reminder: covalent compounds, they are made from two nonmetals, and what that means is, let me change this. What that means is that covalent compounds, they will be um, made from two elements. Remember, if you have more than three elements, three types of elements, you will have a polyatomic compound. But covalent compounds is going to be two elements or more that are nonmetals. Okay, so remember, you can pick two elements. That will be a covalent compound. Hydrogen and carbon. Nitrogen and oxygen, that will be a covalent compound. So two nonmetals, right? So if we have NO2, NO, write it over here so you can see it a little bit better. NO2, that would be a covalent compound because you have two nonmetals. Now, if you were to have something like KNO3, this will be a polyatomic compound. That will be a different topic because we have three elements. So that will not be covalent, and you will not use the rules of covalent to name this. This will be polyatomic. You use a chart to name that compound. Okay, so this is covalent. This is not covalent, right? Cool. So covalent compounds, they will have prefixes in their names. That means that you can identify a covalent compound by simply looking at their name because they use a prefix. Your prefixes are mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca. Okay, so those, the word mono is telling you that you have one, di is telling you that you have two, and so on, right? So if we said O2, that will be dioxide because we have two oxygens. That will be tetra because we have four carbons, and so on. Okay, so covalent compounds will use prefixes. Okay, and remember, the prefix will tell you the amount of atoms of that element that you have. So how do you write the formula for a covalent compound? If we look at these examples that I have here, so we will go from the name carbon monoxide to formulas. Okay, the name is carbon monoxide, so we have carbon and we have monoxide. Remember, this is a prefix, and then this part, the oxide part, is telling us that we have oxygen. Okay, so it's super simple. Carbon is telling us that we only have one carbon, one atom of carbon, so it'll be C1. You don't need to write the one. Monoxide, that means one oxygen. So this will be the formula for carbon monoxide. We have one carbon and one oxygen, and once again, we don't write the ones, so we can just take them apart, and the formula will be CO. That's it. If we look at another example, sulfur difluoride. So sulfur is the element, and then di is the prefix, and then fluoride is telling us that we have fluorine in the compound. So the formula for this compound will be sulfur, one sulfur, And then difluoride is fluorine. We have 2 fluorines. Okay, so the formula will be S1F2. And this is an F, it's not an E, kind of looks like an E. You write it. Okay, and then one more, dinitrogen trioxide. This is the formula, and once again we can identify that this is a covalent compound because it has prefixes di and tri. Okay, so those are prefixes, and we have the elements nitrogen, and we have oxide, which stands for oxygen. So that is telling us that we have dinitrogen, that means 2 nitrogens, and trioxide, that means 3 oxygens, and that will be the formula. So hope that this is clear. The only thing that I do have to mention is that for the first element, whenever is 1, notice that we don't say mono. We don't say monocarbon. We only say carbon for the first element. However, for the second element, we do use the prefix mono. Okay, this is what I mean. Nitrogen, dinitrogen, we're saying that we have 2. If this was only 1 nitrogen, we will not say mononitrogen trioxide, we just say nitrogen trioxide. Okay, but in this, the prefix is telling us that we have 2. All right, so let's go to the next part, which is how to name compounds. So now we're given the formulas, and we have to write their names now. Okay, so and usually the formula, you will have subscripts. In this, I cannot edit the numbers to make them small, so this will be C Cl4. Okay, little 4, not big 4. So to name this, you will have to use the periodic table, of course, if you don't know the elements. But carbon, we only have 1. Technically, we only have 1 carbon. However, we're not gonna say monocarbon. We just say carbon. Remember, you don't use the prefix mono for the first element, so you just say carbon. And then we have 4 Cls. That is chlorine, and we change the ending to IDE, so it's gonna be chloride, and we have 4, so we're gonna say tetra chloride. Okay, so from the formula, C, 1 carbon. Once again, we do not say mono, we just say carbon. And then we have 4 chlorines, tetra. That means that we have tetrachloride, 4 chlorines. Okay. Let's look at the next example, CO2. I'm gonna write it here. CO2. And we have 1 carbon. Okay, so we're just gonna say carbon. Okay, and then we have 2 oxygens. The prefix for 2 is di. Once again, you use these prefixes. Di, the 4 for tetra in the previous problem. So we have 2 carbons. So we're gonna say di, and it's oxygen. We change the ending to IDE, so it's gonna be oxide, dioxide. Okay. And then if we look at the last problem that we have in here, I'm gonna write it in green, N2O3. Once again, these numbers are supposed to be little numbers, subscripts, because I cannot edit it in here. So it's what is it? 2N2O3. Okay. So now we're starting with a nitrogen. However, we have two nitrogens, so we have to specify in the name. Say, okay, di. We have two nitrogens, so it's gonna be di nitrogen. Dinitrogen, and then we have three oxygens. So it's gonna be the prefix for three is tri. Is here, tri. So we write tri, and then the element is oxygen, so it's gonna be oxide. We change the ending to ID. Okay, so that is how to name the compounds from the formula. So they give you the formula, you have to name them. Okay, so all these problems with naming, they're either gonna give you a name and ask you for a formula, or give you a formula and ask you for a name. Okay, and that is it.